Live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Brightline Bites Live. My name is Becky. I am part of the Brightline Eating social media team. If you are new around here, I want to welcome you into our community, welcome you to Brightline Bites Live. We are doing things a little bit differently today. If you've watched Brightline Bites Live before, we're going to do things a little bit differently today, and I will explain that in just a moment here. Sorry, I'm just making sure that my feed is all set up. All right, cool. I think we're good to go. So welcome to Brightline Bites Live. As I said, my name is Becky. I'm part of the Brightline Eating social media team. And Brightline Bites Live is a series of videos that I do here on the Brightline Eating Facebook page to help people learn how to meal prep, how to food prep, how to make Brightline Eating compliant food, Brightline Eating compliant meals. What are Brightline Eating compliant meals? Well, in Brightline Eating, we follow the 4 bright lines, which are no sugar, no flour, we only eat meals, no snacks, and everything is weighed and measured. So it's no sugar, no flour, meals, and quantities. So I would like to invite you today to let me know what questions you have. I am really interested to answer your questions and to see what I can help you out with when it comes to meal prep and food prep. A lot of you might have read the Brightline Eating book. You might have done a 14-day challenge. You might have done a boot camp. You might have done the Brightline Eating boot camp. Sorry, I'm just checking the Facebook feed while I'm live here. I don't normally do that, so it's a little bit distracting because normally I'll just be demonstrating a Brightline Eating recipe or a specific meal. And today I'm just going to be answering your questions and showing you some real kitchen basics. I'll also be checking the feed while I'm talking to you, which I don't usually do because it's distracting to do that while I'm cooking. So cool, we got a few people here already who are sending in their questions, and that's awesome. Kay says, first time here, meal prep with 2 little kiddos. Welcome, Kay. I also have 2 little kiddos. They're not that little anymore. They are 10 and my daughter turns 8 on Friday. So I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. How I do meal prep with kids is generally we'll have something that everyone will eat, and then I'll supplement that with some extra stuff for the kids, and also catering to different people's particular likes and dislikes sometimes. What I avoid doing is just making like 4 completely separate meals. What's helpful in my household is that my husband and I both do Brightline Eating. So we'll make a meal and then I'll add on something for the kids. So let's say, for example, I like to do chicken breasts in a crock pot. And I put some seasonings in and do chicken breasts in the crock pot, and then I pull them when they're done. Excuse me. So I have like shredded chicken, and it's kind of a little bit of like a Tex-Mex sort of flavor that I do. So then my husband and I will make either cauliflower rice and some like kind of Tex-Mex veggies like corn, rotel, diced tomatoes, sauteed peppers and onions, and we'll put the shredded chicken on top. You could do the same thing but with a salad base. So put your salad on your plate, top it with your mixed veggies. Sauteed peppers and onions are fantastic on that as well. Top that with your shredded chicken. And then the kids they can have the same veggies. They can eat the same chicken. My son will usually put his on a roll, so I'll keep some rolls or bread handy, or tortillas. They like to, make it into a wrap or like a burrito. So it's the same foods. You're just kind of adding on something else for the kids. It doesn't have to be a bread product. It could be rice. It could be some potatoes. That's how I tend to do dinners for the kids. Breakfast, we sort of each eat our own thing. And lunch, I pack their lunches. What I've found is meal prep is good for everybody. It helps you just to know that you've got meals ready in the fridge. At least it helps me because I've got 2 school-age kiddos. So I will pack their lunches ahead of time. I do 2 or 3 days at a time. After that, they tend to not be as fresh as anymore. So I'll do 2 or 3 days of meals in the fridge. Sometimes I'll do my breakfast, my husband's breakfast. Sometimes I'll do my lunches. Sometimes I'll do the kids' lunches. Any of those that you can do to prep ahead of time and have in the fridge ready to go are awesome. One thing I do like to have on hand a lot of the time is cut up veggies like pepper sticks. I'll take a bell pepper, cut it into slices, and also cucumbers. I take cucumbers and cut those into cucumber sticks, and just have like a glass Pyrex dish of those with a lid in the fridge ready to go. The kids like those. If I'm short on veggies for them for dinner, I can just grab some pepper sticks or cucumber sticks and they're good to go. They're great for lunches. My husband and I like to eat those for lunch with hummus. So I hope that that helps. Let's see. Kay says, welcome everyone else who's saying hello. Eleanor from Cape Town. Wow, awesome. How do I make crockpot chicken breasts? Susan wants to know how I make crockpot chicken breasts. I have a recipe. You can Google it, Cafe Rio chicken breast. I think it's a restaurant chain out west, maybe. I'm in New York State. My sister shared this recipe with me. Cafe Rio chicken is the recipe that I use, and I do them in the crock pot. It does use a dressing. Let me show you what I use. It does call for a zesty vinaigrette dressing in it, and I don't use zesty, or I'm sorry, zesty Italian it calls for, which I think the only zesty Italian that I see in my grocery store is Kraft, and it has sugar in it. So I instead get this. Show you on my counter cam there. I think that's showing up. Ken's Steakhouse Simply Vinaigrette. See if you can see that because I'm looking at the question feed. I can't see the camera. Whoop, there it is. Okay. Here we go. Sorry. It's hard to do the counter cam sometimes. This has canola oil, vinegar, water are the first three ingredients. When you're looking at an ingredient label to see if something's compliant, you want to look at the first three ingredients and make sure there's no sugar. So this one has canola oil, vinegar, water. Now, because the first ingredient is oil, I count this as my fat in that meal. So when I eat that chicken, I count out my chicken portion and I consider my fat as having been accounted for with this dressing. Because it is kind of difficult to find a dressing like that that doesn't have sugar in it. So I like that one. Sometimes you're going to have better luck finding one without sugar if it says something like simple or simply on the label. That is not a guarantee. It's just if you're struggling trying to find a condiment, sometimes those, simple ones tend to have less of the junk ingredients in them. So let's see. Kay had something else to say about this. Okay, I was trying to keep all three on the bright line. They are 4 and 6. I took all tortillas and bread out of the house. I should give them a few things back. Honestly, Kay, that's up to you. You can keep compliant grains in the house if your kids will eat those. What's at question here is your piece and what's going to be bothering you or calling to you. There are certain products that, even though my kids like them, I cannot have them in the house. There are certain not my foods, sugar, flour, things that the kids could eat. They like to eat. They're not coming into my house because if they come into my house, they're just going to sit over there in my pantry talking to me and bugging me and messing with my peace. So if you can have stuff for the kids in the house, bread or tortillas, and it's not going to bother you, great. That works for me personally. Especially if you're maybe new on your program and it's bothering you and you need like a cold turkey break from it, not in your sight, until you get your automaticity and your peace in line, then keep them out of the house and come up with some compliant things that you can give the kids. Like I said, rice, quinoa, if they'll do quinoa. You could do, another thing that we like to do is my husband and I make carrot noodles and the kids have spaghetti. So we make, one thing of sauce. I have gluten-free meatballs that don't have flour in them. Or sometimes we do like a Italian chicken sausage with marinara that doesn't have sugar in it. and my husband and I will put that over carrot noodles that we steam. We spiralize carrots and steam them, and the kids will have regular spaghetti. So if that doesn't bother you, I've come to learn that, you know, certain types of pasta I can have in the house because they don't call to me. Other types I can't. So I just make that decision when I'm buying it that, okay, I'm not going to buy that one because that'll bother me. I'll buy this one because the kids like it and they'll eat it, and I can live with it in my house. So I hope that helps. There's another, if you haven't watched the Brightline Bites lives before, you can see them all on our Facebook page. It's Facebook.com/Brightline Eating/videos, or just go to the Brightline Eating Facebook page and click on the videos tab. Also, brightlineeating.com/resources. All of the Brightline Bites lives are there as well. I've done a few other dishes, a few other videos of recipes that are pretty family friendly. I have I think I have a taco salad, burrito bowls. I have done a steak dinner, which you're probably not feeding your kids steak every night, but there is a steak dinner there. And a Dutch oven chili recipe. At least my son likes chili, so, you know, we'll make that and pretty much the whole family will eat it. So sometimes there's things like that that you can have that the kids like. So I hope that helps. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Pamela, first time you've caught me live. That's exciting. Welcome, Pamela. Christy has a salad dressing suggestion. I love on salad just putting balsamic vinegar, regular balsamic vinegar. That's compliant as a condiment. My other favorite thing to put on salad is salsa and either sliced avocado or guacamole. Salsa is 2 ounces for a condiment, and guacamole or sliced avocado is 2 ounces for your fat. So I like to do those. I don't see any other questions right now in the comments. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. And also, if you're new here, if you haven't done any of our programs yet, definitely check out, I would recommend checking out the 14-day challenge. It's only $14 US. It's a really great way to just kind of dip your toes in the Brightline Eating pool and see what it's all about. And then you can decide whether or not you want to just fully dive all the way into the Brightline life or not. I highly recommend it. I'm coming up on my 3rd anniversary of being a Brightliner, and I could not be more happy. I'm going to show you some of my scales now. I'm going to open up my other, there we go. I'm going to show you my scales. In case you didn't know, Brightline Eating is on TikTok now. And we did a video recently where I was showing myself making my lunch. Sorry, I got some glare going on there. I was showing myself making my lunch, and people who do Brightline Eating, who use a digital scale to weigh their food, were just blown away. They didn't know that you could just measure your food, put it on the plate, and then zero out your scale in between. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I would never think that somebody didn't know that. And I would love to show you the different kinds of scales that I have. We also have a lot of new people who've joined us from our recent Food Freedom event. So welcome, welcome. And if you are new to this world of measuring your food with a digital scale, I'm going to show you what it's all about. Let me see here. I'm going to grab a bowl. This right here is an OXO scale. This is the same scale that Susan Pierce Thompson uses. And what's awesome about this scale is several things. This is my main scale. This is the love of my life here. This is the go-to. If you were starting Brightline Eating and you said, I want the best scale, what should I get? I would say get this OXO scale. It's OXO. You can get it all over the place, you know, Amazon, your bed and bath type stores, probably places like Target and stuff. So a couple things I love about this scale. One, it uses regular batteries, AAA batteries. I have some other scales that use button cell batteries, and those are just harder to find, and I don't love them. So this scale has a pull-out faceplate. So if you're making like you got a big plate and it's covering up that faceplate, no problem. You can just pull it out. You can also, this thing stays on for so long. We have to remember to turn it off or it does eat the batteries. But you can, put your ingredients in. I'm just going to throw some things into this bowl. And then walk away because you forgot to cook your whatever's going in next and fix that and come back and it's still on. And if it's not on, it's just gone to sleep and you can put something else in and it wakes back up and it remembers the weight that it was at. I have other scales that don't do that and they will time out on me in the middle of plating a meal and it is less than ideal. If you're putting ingredients, obviously this is not a real scenario, but if you're putting ingredients in here and you're like, yep, that's what I need to measure that at, zero it out, put your next ingredient in, zero it out. That's how I build a bowl. That's how I build a plate. You're just zeroing it out in between the ingredients. There's no need to measure things in all separate dishes. I'm a big fan of not getting a lot of dishes dirty because I don't like to wash dishes. Also with this scale, you click this button is power and tare, T-A-R-E, which is how you zero the scale out. So this one, it says 0 there. So if you need to zero it, you just click that and you click and hold to turn it off to save that battery. Over here, it has the different, the button for different units of measurement. In Bright Line Eating, we generally recommend that you just stick with ounces. And also we measure everything on the scale, not messing around with measuring cups, not messing around generally with measuring spoons, not worrying if you're using a liquid measure or a dry measure. Don't worry about any of that. You don't have to. Take it out of the equation. Take that stress out of the equation. Just use the digital scale. We do have a few things on, this is the Bright Line Eating Food Plan Magnet. It's available in the Bright Line Eating Emporium. And it's got everything on there, and the whole back is a magnet. It sticks to the fridge, and it's amazing. There's a couple things on here that we do say are 1 tablespoon or ½ ounce, because sometimes it's just easier to measure 1 tablespoon of things like olive oil or butter, mayonnaise, nut butter, salad dressing, really wet ingredients that you eat a small amount of. For the most part, I usually do the digital scale still on those sorts of ingredients. Let me show you another scale. I'm going to hop over here and see if we have any more questions in the feed. Let's see. Colleen says, I didn't know you could zero it out until I did it by accident, right? These are the things that, you don't know until you know. You don't even know you don't know. Kathy, my friend Kathy is here. She's one of our amazing moderators in the Bright Line Eating official Facebook group. And she's been around quite a while and is an absolute rock star. She says, I didn't know you could turn it off until I saw my husband do it. So Kathy's just burning through batteries over there on her scale, right? Let me show you a couple other scales that I have. This is one, my husband got this one as a backup scale. I don't even know the brand, is just a random on Amazon or somewhere. But this is a little bit different. I just want to show you kind of the different scales that are out there. This one is more of a touch. The other one clicks the button, which I like that tactile feedback. This one has a nice smooth glass surface. What messes me up switching from scale to scale is that this one doesn't have the on-off button in the same place as the tare button. So over here, if you need to zero it out, you hit tare. You know what I do all the time? I hit the on-off button like my OXO scale, and I turn the darn thing off when I'm in the middle. Also, it has the unit button over here to switch to grams or whatever. Other than that, this functions pretty much the same. This is the one that when I have to use this one as a backup, if the batteries die or my husband's using the other scale or whatever, this one will shut off on me in the middle of weighing out my plate. Let me show you this one. this is and none of these are like endorsed products or anything. I'm just showing you as a fellow Brightliner what works for me, what I've discovered over the last 3 years of living this way. This one is called Joseph is the brand. This is a travel scale. And let me show you how it works. Some people love these, some people hate these. It opens up as a little tripod. And that is someday I will learn how to do this left and right thing on the camera. This is your display. So it's pretty small. I really only use this for travel. Mostly can use it for like camping. I don't travel too much these days, obviously, not many people do. It's not quite as stable because it has this this kind of tripod sort of surface. You put your dish on there and the power and zero is the same. I mean, pretty much every scale has the power and the tare or zero. I'm trying to get that so it doesn't have a glare on it. Zero that out. Hold it. I haven't used this one in a while. There we go. Now it's zeroing out. And I just had to replace the battery on it, actually. So that's how this one works, the Joseph. It is really handy for traveling. It doesn't read off quite as fast, I would say, as like the OXO. But if you're traveling, this thing fits in a pocket. It fits in a purse. It's really small and lightweight. And accurate as far as I can tell. It is just, let me show you, I have big plates. This can be kind of awkward when you have a big plate because it gets hard to see the readout, and if you push it too far back, it's going to tip. So pros and cons to everything. Like I said, this is super convenient for travel. You just turn it off, fold it up, and I mean, look, it fits in the palm of my hand. This thing is tiny. You know what I could do? I could tell you how much it weighs. My darn lights. Big glare. 5.5 ounces, 5.4 ounces. So it's very lightweight. Very convenient. So those are different types of scales. Let me know if you have any other questions about scales. We had a question here in the comments. Oh my goodness, we're almost out of time. I did say that I was going to talk about soup. Someone wrote in a question asking about soup and how soup is weighed and measured. So I did take a look at, Deb wants to know if it's worth the price, compact travel scale. Travel the States on a motorcycle, how fun. I got the Joseph on sale. I think I got it like $10 or $15 off. I don't remember. I honestly bought it more than 2 years ago. If you travel a lot, yeah, I would say it's worth the price. I haven't seen another travel scale that I like better. Let me put it that way. That said, my husband and I camp a lot and we tent camp. And since we both do Brightline eating, hi Donna, yes, we're still live. Since we both do Brightline eating and we're eating 3 meals a day and we're weighing and measuring everything, we just take the OXO scale camping with us and we don't mess around with the travel scale. But we have room when we're camping to pack the OXO scale. Okay, so someone had written in and asked me about soup and wanted me to talk about soup today. There are a lot of really good resources on our website in the FAQ section. So I went there because I'm not a coach and there are things that I still sometimes need to reference. You know, I don't want to give you false advice. So I went to the FAQs on our website, which are at support.brightlineeating.com. And there is a question in there of, can I have soup? And soup is tricky because it usually contains multiple food categories. Usually you have your protein and your vegetables. Sometimes you can have a grain too, all in one bowl. Plus there's the broth to account for. So for this reason, Susan Pierce Thompson says she doesn't eat soup at home. She will eat lentil soup or vegetarian chili if she's out at a restaurant and counts it as a protein serving. Typically she'll use the bowl as the measurement, whatever they serve her, and that's she counts that as her protein for the meal. The one plate method. So if you absolutely love soup and you want to have soup in your meal plan, it's just going to require a little bit of math. I printed these off for reference because I really didn't want to steer you wrong. In general, soup that has broth that's really thick, your serving could be estimated to have 4 ounces of protein, 6 ounces of vegetables, and 2 ounces of broth for a total of 12 ounces. So you could count a 12-ounce bowl of a thick soup as your meal. For a broth that's on the thin side, the serving would contain 4 ounces protein, 6 ounces of vegetables, and 4 ounces of broth for a total of 14 ounces. So if you want to estimate in a restaurant or something, or a pre-made soup, those are some guidelines. So these measurements are based on the weight loss food plan. So that's not accounting for any maintenance ads if you're on maintenance. There are some additional FAQs on the website for, can I have chicken broth? We recommend 2 ounces counted as a condiment. And there's also a separate FAQ for split pea soup because split peas count as a protein. And in split pea soup, it's pretty much just split peas, so that would count differently. And there's also an FAQ for vegetable broth separately. So if you're considering having soup, check out the FAQs. We would recommend probably that you don't try soup within the first 8 to 10 weeks of your journey. Get your automaticity in line, get really in tune with your food prep, and before you start doing some kind of experiments like that of mixing food groups together and having to estimate things, it can really mess with your piece, it can mess with your automaticity. So what I am going to do is show you a super quick soup that I have made before. I have veggies in the microwave. I have just, all right, I gotta switch my view here so that I can see what I'm doing. Oh, the glare on my scale. Okay, I have just some steamed mixed vegetables, carrots, peas, corn, and green beans. This is the like steam in bag kind, and I made these, I warmed these up earlier. I'm just gonna drain these real quick. Okay, I'm gonna put my bowl on my scale. So 6 ounces of veggies would be a weight loss serving for lunch. So let's put 6 ounces of veggies in here. There we go. And 6 ounces of beans would be a good addition to this will be like a vegetable bean soup. I warmed up earlier, I just threw into a saucepan some cannellini beans. All right, this is just real life cooking with Becky in my kitchen here. Cannellini beans, I can never get them at these. Wegmans cannellini beans, so they're just like a white bean. I just threw them in a saucepan and heated them up. There you go. I'm gonna put 6 ounces in, so zero the scale. And six ounces of beans is a protein serving on the men's plan or the women's plan for the weight loss food plan. A couple more. I should theoretically be able to get 2 servings out of both of this because that bag of vegetables says that it's 12 ounces and this canned beans says it's 15 and a half. I will definitely weigh and measure that, but I should be able to get 2 bowls of soup out of this. So that FAQ that we just looked at said if you're counting your protein, your 6 ounces of veggies, and 4 ounces of broth for a thin soup, 2 ounces of broth for a thick soup. I've just got a container of chicken broth here. And I zeroed out my scale. Whoops, I'm dripping, making a mess. It's all right, real life, because I'm looking up there to see my measurement. So there's a little bit more than 2 ounces of broth. That's not much in a soup like this. I'm going to make it 4. And also, if you're interested in soup, I talk more about this. I have a recipe, a dinner recipe that I make. It's called chicken taco soup. And it's one of the other Brightline Bites live videos that I've done. So if you want to check out more about soup, you can check that one out. I do that one a little bit differently because I weigh everything before I cook it, which is not the norm, but I'm making a big batch pot of soup. So, stir this up. That right there is a decent, hearty vegetable bean soup. If you wanted, you could now take this, put it in a saucepan and simmer it for a little bit to get the flavors kind of melded together. You can add some seasonings, sea salt, some like Italian seasoning might be nice in here, like a garlic seasoning, whatever you got, whatever floats your boat when it comes to soup like this. That's a really simple vegetable bean soup. Gosh, I made a mess with that broth. And I would feel really at peace eating that. I mean, that's just some really clean measuring right there. But again, do what works for you. Do what works well for you. Hopefully that is helpful. Let me see. I'm going to turn off my counter cam and see if anybody has any more questions. We should get going here because I try to keep these to a half an hour. Let's see. Can you please repeat the soup weighing guidelines so we can write them down? All of those guidelines are in the FAQs on our website. Go to support.brightlineeating.com, type in soup in the search, and you'll get the Can I Have Soup FAQ. You'll also see the on the FAQs there's one about split pea soup specifically, there's one about chicken broth, and there's one about vegetable broth. So go to support.brightlineeating.com and search the FAQs if you want to read those soup guidelines that I was just giving you. Someone was asking about salsa or marinara back here. I thought I saw, did I imagine that? Let's see. If I use 1 tablespoon of olive oil in the pan to cook, sorry, my, oh shoot. There we go. It's not showing me very much of the screen when I'm looking at the comments, so I'm having trouble reading some of these. Where did that question just go? Where did it go? Oh, there it is, Eleanor. If I use 1 tablespoon of olive oil in the pan to cook egg, fruit, etc., does that tablespoon of oil count as my fat portion for that meal, please? It does. Yes, it does. And I would recommend that you maybe try using water in the pan instead, or a really light spray of a cooking spray. That doesn't count because it's so negligible. It doesn't really impact your meal. But it does keep your food from sticking to the pan. Lily has ordered her OXO. Yes. Yeah, the Joseph is $43 Canadian. Oh, the exchange rates right now are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. I don't know. I mean, if you're, Susan, are you the one who said you're motorcycling around? It might be worth it. It might be worth it if that's your main scale. I mean, having that peace of mind is really, really great. Let's see. If you take out the bulb in the can light, just above, yeah. Pamela is telling me how to get the glare off. You know what I can do? Hey Google, turn off the island lights. There, they're off. I could have done that. Let's see. Do you have any recipes for beans that are flavorable, or could you do a class on bean recipes? That's a great question, Roberta. I will make a note of that. I will make a note of that for beans. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try and finish up here. Sandy Weiss Sharp is here, another one of our Rockstar community members. Let's see. She says she really likes the Joseph travel scale. Sandy likes to travel. Oh, here it is. I took it out about the salsa and marinara. Oh, there was, about spaghetti squash. Okay. Pamela Simmons has a question about spaghetti squash. Oh, Gil is, yeah, eggplant, eggplant, aubergine. Yes, eggplant. Regardless of what you're cooking in a pan with oil, you count the oil as your fat. Yes, unless you're just using a teeny tiny spray of cooking oil, then Susan Pierce Thompson has said you don't need to weigh and measure that. It's a very negligible amount. Okay, Pamela is asking about what you can put on spaghetti squash. Aside from marinara or salsa, you can just season it and eat it as is. Cinnamon is also nice because squash has that, it's pumpkin. Pumpkin is great with cinnamon. Pumpkin is a type of squash. I have found cinnamon is nice on other types of squash. I like to put cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg as well. You can put butter on it and count the butter as your fat if you'd like. Something else you can try. This may be it may be triggering for some people, but if you look up on the vlog, brightlineeating.com/vlog, every week Susan Pierce Thompson puts out a vlog. And a month or two ago, she did a series where she invited Bright Lifers to submit their recipes that they like. Their like go-to recipes that they like to have. There's a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. And I think it's in the dinner recipe. There was a Bright Lifer who made a spaghetti squash that sort of had like a Thai peanut style sauce on it. And what she did was she mixed up some silken tofu with some nut butter. So yes, it was a dinner recipe because she was using she used 4 ounces of silken tofu and excuse me, and then half an ounce of nut butter, I believe. Check out that recipe. She explains it in detail on that video. It's the brightlineeating.com/vlog. Look up what Bright Lifers eat for dinner. And she makes like a Thai peanut style noodle with spaghetti squash as the noodle, and then makes like a sauce out of silken tofu and nut butter. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting, and I'd like to experiment with that and see, because nut butter can be triggering. Making a kind of a mimic food like that can be triggering. I made it and I tried it and I really enjoyed it, and it was not triggering for me personally. But different recipes have, there's kind of, if you're new to Bright Line Eating, I would not recommend it. I would recommend getting your piece in line first, getting your automaticity in line, healing your brain first before you try something like that. But if you do want to try it, if that sounds good to you, and you aren't concerned about it lighting up your brain and messing with your peace and automaticity, I would check out that recipe. That is something you can do different with spaghetti squash. Garlic, salt, and pepper, Parmesan cheese. Yep. Okay, one more question. This is the veggie chili recipe that I would like to know if it's compliant. You know what you can also do? I know you messaged earlier and I told you to send that chili recipe. I'm not going to have time to answer it right now. And also I would want to look at it and do some math. I like to write things out on paper and make sure the math is right. There is a very veggie chili recipe in the Bright Line Eating cookbook as well, if people are interested in making a vegetarian chili. I personally was vegetarian for like half my life. I'm not anymore, but I was. And I have a vegetarian chili recipe that I've made many, many, many times. So I will take a look at your chili recipe and compare notes, and maybe in a future episode I can do a veggie chili as well, because I've done a meat-based chili in the past, the Dutch oven chili on Brightline Bites Live. So yes, V, thank you for sending that. I will take a look at that. I will hop into that later. So thank you everybody for joining me today. I hope you found this helpful. Again, if you're new to Brightline Eating, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. And please feel free to keep sending us those questions, because I can do a Brightline Bites Live again like this, where it's kind of a 101 basics, sort of where do you get started? There are no stupid questions. What are the things that you just need to know to have that peace in the kitchen and peace with your food plan? So I can definitely do this again. If you have more questions, please send them in. You can send them by Facebook Messenger. You can comment on this video. You can send them to us on Instagram Messenger, Instagram direct message as well. Send them in. Tell them it's a question for Bright Light Bites Live, and the other members of the social media team will send them over to me. If you are new and you haven't done any of our programs yet, check out the 14-day challenge. There's a link in the description here, over there, maybe over there. Click the link in the description to learn more about the 14-day challenge. It's only $14 US, and it's a really great introduction to what Bright Line Eating is all about and how we live this way of life. Yeah, the link is over there. And I will be back on Friday, July 9th, midday Eastern time again. I think that one is at noon, but Friday, July 9th. So keep your eyes on our social media. We'll announce that and create a Facebook event so that you can RSVP and join me again. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for joining me today, and have a beautiful bright day. Bye.